Welcome back to EDH Deck Building. I am your host, Demo, and I am talking about 10 cards that I would ban in the Commander format. Of course, it's not really going to be that, but it's mostly this video, and I saved this for last for a reason, because mostly this video is a culmination of the videos I made about banning. I'm going to bring it all home into this last video. I thought talking about the ban cards last was the best idea, because for me, my biggest issue, and a lot of people with the ban list, is consistency. That's what basically the reason I chose the cards that I would be banning for this video. I am making this, you might even be able to tell, it's very early in the morning. I woke up, I read the comments of my video that just went live today, which is 10 cards to unban, because I knew people were just going to be letting me have it in the comment section. And I purposely did it that way so that I could use those arguments that people make to talk about the cards to ban and vice versa, right? Ultimately, as I've said many times, I am on the side of unbanning. You really need to think about the cards that are already legal in the Commander format. You really need to think about what people are already doing in the Commander format. Guys, this is a format where you can win the game on turn one. I just think that a lot of times the arguments people make, they're not actually thinking about what can already happen in the format, right? I promise you, okay, if Cyclonic Rift was banned in the Commander format right now, and I called for it to get unbanned, everyone would lose their minds. Of course they would, right? Everyone hates that card. It's already unbanned, right? Dockside Extortionist is an even better example. If Dockside Extortionist was banned in the Commander format and I called for it to get unbanned, everyone would be calling me a lunatic. Guess what? Not only is it already unbanned, but a lot of people play it in their casual Commander decks. The potential there is insane for Dockside Extortionist. Insane. It's very easy to 2-card combo and get infinite mana. It happened to me in a game. I play a casual Commander game. I had a patron do that recently. And all the argument, again, prime time is the one that people push back on the most for whatever reason. My theory is people push back on it the most because it's so busted in other formats, and they're taking those arguments into Commander, which I don't think should apply. You know, I'm using the baseline. I'm using the bottom argument, which to me, when banning a card, the bottom argument is the most important argument. What's the floor for this card? The floor for Primeval Titan is I go get a couple basic lands out of my deck, maybe a utility land. In most decks, in most of my decks, that's what it would do. Oh, but if you do this thing, and if you, okay, we should ban Pilla-Palla then. The floor for that card is it's pretty terrible. But if you combine it with Grand Architect, you get infinite mana. What's better, infinite mana, or I go get an Urborg and a Cabal Coffers and put it into play, right? You can't make arguments for banning cards based on the what-if scenario. There's lots of what-if scenarios that just win the game, make infinite mana, lots of that. You have to make the arguments off of what's likely going to happen. Now, I would say likely, yes, people will get really good cards with their Primeval Titan, like a Nykthos, you know, something like that. That's fine. Is it a game over? Is it game over if someone gets a Nykthos? I have a Nykthos in 2 decks. When I get it in play, it's good. It's not game over. It's just good, right? We have to take those things into consideration. And of course, that person said, oh, bounce it, blink it, reanimate it. I'm like, okay, do that to your Dockside Extortionist. How good is that? Which is better, bouncing and blinking my Dockside Extortionist, or bouncing and blinking and creating token, whatever the argument? All those arguments for Primeval Titan, apply that to Dockside Extortionist. The lands that are coming into play tapped, you can't even use them right away, okay? With Dockside Extortionist, you can use the mana right away. It's way easier, and Dockside Extortionist only costs 2. And if you're making the argument for we should ban Dockside Extortionist in the format, I mean, okay, whatever. I wouldn't be sad to see it go. I don't think it needs to get banned, and I think it's better than Primeval Titan. If the argument you're making is this guy's just going to go off on his turn, it is way easier to do that with Dockside Extortionist than it is Primeval Titan, and you can do it way earlier. Everyone imagining these just good plays in a Commander game, okay, so what? You're not even winning the game. Is Cyclonic Rift a good play in a Commander game? Again, let's get back to that. Just one card on its own. I cast a Cyclonic Rift. Is that a good play in a Commander game? A lot of people would say it's just game over. Again, we need to keep in mind the format that we're already playing and the cards that are already legal in the format. And that's what this list is mostly going to be. This list is mostly going to be, I'm bringing attention to the insane cards that are already legal in this format that for whatever reason nobody complains about, okay? So the 3 arguments that you need to avoid when talking about banning cards. Argument number one, maybe the worst argument. I hear it all the time. I just heard it again several times on the video I did today about unbanning cards. This card is expensive and therefore inaccessible, or a combination of two. And again, I'm going to talk about a couple of cards on this list. I mean, I could bring up 1,000. A guy brought up Moat in the comments today. Is that not a casual card? I've seen it in casual games, not a lot, but I've seen it in casual games. Insanely expensive card. I bring up Guardian Beast on my channel, brought it up a couple of times. A card that I wish wasn't expensive because it's actually a neat fit in a black artifact deck. So should that card get banned because it's really expensive and not accessible, right? Any card on the reserve list, you could make that argument. That is a silly argument. Argument number two that makes zero sense to me. This card just goes in every deck. If you unban this card, it just goes in every deck. How many cards, again, Arcane Signet, Soul Ring, guess we got to ban both of those because those literally go in every single commander deck. Literally, that you could put them in every commander deck and they're good. So we got to ban those, right? Because those go in every deck. And then once you get to the Ristic Study, Smothering Tide, Dockside Extortionist, Cultivate. I mean, where do you draw the line there, right? You're going to ban cards because they go in every deck? A really, really bad argument. And another really, really bad argument that I hear all the time is you can't unban this card because it combos with this. It does this other thing with this other card. I'll bring up Pilla-Palla again. There's a card. So we should ban Pilla-Palla because you combine it with Grand Architect to create infinite mana. Two cards nobody ever complains about. Again, for me, I'm just thinking there are so many cards that so easily combo to actually win you the game that nobody ever complains about, but yet we have to keep Primeval Titan banned because it'll go get you a Cabal Coffers and like it doesn't even win you the game. It's just good. I will make it very clear that I'm not actually calling for any of these cards to get banned. I am talking about these specific 10 cards here to sort of bring the argument all together. Again, I planned it this way. I planned it so that I would make a video about 10 cards to not unban. And by the way, I'm looking back at that video and I'm just like, yeah, we could probably unban a couple of those cards. Really, like what's the difference? I'm making the argument to myself right now. Mainly the video I did, which was released today, and I literally just woke up and read all the comments, and that's why I'm like, okay, I got to make this video right now. I read the comments and I'm like, yeah, you guys are not making good arguments that don't already apply to so many things, which is the main reason why I'm talking about these 10 cards. So let's get to it. I'm going to start out with Serra Ascendant, which to me is, again, nobody ever thinks, I mean, maybe some people do, but you never hear this guy talked about in the banned conversation. This, to me, when I first started playing Commander, was the most shocking. I couldn't, like, I'm playing Commander, first couple weeks playing the game, somebody plays a turn 1 Serra Ascendant, and I'm like, how is that not banned? It's a first turn 6/6 flying lifelink creature. That's insane, right? You would think, because of just the fundamental rules of Commander, that this card would be banned. It's one of the first cards that would be banned. No, it's not going to end games. I've seen this card in play a few times on turn 1 in Commander games. I'm sure everyone has. What I like to do with the thought experiment I like to do is, what if this card was banned, right? If this card was banned, everyone would be totally okay with it. And then if I made a video talking about we should unban Serra Ascendant, everyone would be like, you're a lunatic. I'm unsubbing from your channel because you don't know what you're talking about. I guarantee you people would be doing that, although this card is currently unbanned, right? I mean, you could go either way with it. That's sort of my thinking of it. The absurdity of the first turn play here, I mean, yeah, you can just get rid of it, I guess, but this is a turn 2 12-point life swing. There's very few plays in the Commander format that are a better first turn play than this, in my opinion. Now, I will point out, one of the reasons why this isn't the most busted play over on turn 1 is because rule number 1 for me, which is don't make yourself a target. Whenever this comes out on turn 1, guess what? That person's the archenemy. Of course, they might even be the archenemy for the rest of the game. But getting away from that argument, I'm actually just shocked this isn't banned already. I mean, I think a lot of people when they first started playing Commander are shocked this isn't banned. Another card, Reanimate. I was kind of shocked that this wasn't banned. 1 black mana sorcery. Put target creature card from a graveyard on the battlefield under your control. You lose life equal to its mana value. Wow. For 1 mana, get any creature out of your graveyard. And of course, the life loss is inconsequential because, of course, in Commander, you have a bunch of life. There are entire decks in Legacy built around I get a super busted creature into my graveyard early and reanimate it on turn 1. And of course, in Commander, you can do the same. Getting the creature into your graveyard. I guess I could probably have gave Entomb an honorable mention because that's a pretty insane card too. You can very easily, in the Commander format, again, talking about, oh, you can't unban this card because of this possible scenario. Turn 1, I Dark Ritual. Entomb Just imagine the most insane creature ever. I guess it has to be one that doesn't shuffle into your library. That's why those cards have those effects, by the way. And then I reanimate it. So turn one, I have insane busted creature in play. And, the game's not over, but it might be quickly, right? That's a possible play in the Commander format. Again, just think about the scenarios that are available to us in the Commander format already. This card's ridiculous. 1 mana, get any creature out of my graveyard with a very, I would say, low stipulation. Just crazy. I'm just shocked this isn't already banned. Winds of Change, that's right. A card that, and it's funny because I didn't have this on my list originally. And someone mentioned on my very first video where I talked about the cards that need to stay banned, I think someone mentioned about Winds of Change being the unfunnest turn one play. I agree. And for all the people, again, you're making the argument that people make of it just creates an unfun environment. I should have added that to the list. Creating an unfun environment? Really? That Winter Orb, ban that. Armageddon, just go down the list. We have to have these cards banned because they create an unfun environment. Go down the list of cards that people hate in the Commander format and don't ever want to see. That list is enormous. So we should ban all those. This, to me, again, this is actually, I would probably say there's 2 cards on this list that I actually would like to see banned. This is one of them. This, to me, is the unfunnest turn one play in the Commander format. 1 red mana, each player shuffles the cards from their hand into their library, then draws 7 cards. This is anti-mulliganing, right? Mulliganing is a integral part of the game of Magic. It's very important that people get a decent starting hand, or the game is just completely ruined and unfair. Some guy can just play a mountain very easy. I've had this happen to me. And turn 1, Winds of Change, just to screw everyone over. I have this in my deck because I'm playing a Nekusar deck or something. And I just happen to have it in my opening hand, and I turn 1, shuffle everyone's mulliganed starting hands away, and then I just draw a hand with no lands, and now I'm screwed for the rest of the game. This goes against the rules of the game of Magic, in my opinion, because it undoes mulliganing, in my opinion. That's what I really don't like. It just creates a super unfun environment where everyone shuffles away the hand they actually kept to draw random, possibly garbage. And maybe you've just ruined the game right out of the gate on turn 1. This, to me, again, there's 3 cards here. They're all turn 1 plays that, to me, are either just way, way too busted or possibly, for sure, create an unfun environment. And I'm shocked they're not banned. Am I calling for it to get banned? Yes, I would actually not mind if this card was banned. I don't think anybody would miss it either. It's super, what's more of an unfun turn 1 play than this? I'll just say that. A whole bunch of those arguments about expensive cards, way too powerful, right? Anyone talking about Library of Alexandria being, it's on a land, it's so busted. The Tabernacle at Pendrell Vale, in my opinion, dunks on all those arguments. This card is absurdly expensive. It is a land, and it is also a crazy stacks piece. Again, maybe there are people out there that don't even know this is available in the Commander format. It absolutely is. This is a legal card in the Commander format. I've played games with it. So absurdly expensive, a horrid stacks piece, really unfun. This is whoever's played a game with this card in the Commander format knows how unfun it is. Turn 1, everyone has to start paying tax on all their creatures. Super unfun. So it's hitting on all cylinders here, right? Is it accessible to most? I don't think so. And on a land. Just very easily just play a land, turn 1. This is not banned, guys. And to further hit home that argument, what about Mishra's Workshop? Absurdly expensive card. It's a land, and it adds 3 mana to your mana pool. Spend this mana, only cast artifact spells. Okay, it only works on artifacts. Gee, I wonder what you could do with that, right? Of course, again, for anyone who's actually seen this at work in the Commander format, it's absolutely insane. Every colorless deck wants this. I have an Omarthus deck. This card would be bonkers good in that deck. Bonkers good. Guess what? It's not accessible. It's $2,500 or whatever, right? It's insanely expensive. There's no way I'm going to actually buy it. I don't have one myself. And again, it's very easy to play this turn 1 and just go nuts right out of the gate. Are we playing a casual game now? Again, that's the other argument that applies to all of this stuff. Are we actually playing casual Commander? Yes or no? In CEDH, this card's perfectly okay. In casual Commander, I would probably ask for it to get banned. It's just too good. It's way too good. Turn 1? What unbalances the game more than this on turn 1? I guess if you have no artifacts in your hand, it's not really going to do a whole lot. This is insane, right? Mishra's Workshop, Tabernacle, both insanely expensive lands that completely unbalance the game from turn 1, that I don't ever hear keep people calling for them to get banned. Right? We got to ban prime time, but those lands, no problem. Okay. Timetwister. That's right. And again, this is a card that I absolutely don't think needs to get banned. In fact, I'm going to blow some minds here. I don't think this is that powerful. It is just a wheel, right? That's what it's doing. It's a 3 mana. Each player shuffles their hand and graveyard into the library and draws 7 cards. The only difference between this and wheel is you shuffle your graveyard into your library, which can enable, obviously some repetitive stuff. But most of the, like 90% of the time I've ever seen this cast, it's just a wheel. That's it, right? The shuffle graveyard part doesn't really, they don't even care. Now, there's one very simple reason why I want, and again, a lot of people might not even know this card is unbanned and usable in the Commander format. Again, it's insanely expensive. So we're in that argument now. This is the only card in the Power 9 that isn't banned. The rest of the Power 9 is banned. This one is not. Why? The consistency here is weird for me. Why, when they first started doing this, okay, we got to ban the Power 9, and then some dude, a couple of the guys in the rules committee have a Timetwister, and they actually want to play it in a Commander game, and they're like, oh, well, we're not going to ban Timetwister, though, right? And they're like, oh, okay. And they all agree that they're not going to ban it because they want to play their Timetwisters, right? And I agree. I agree with that argument, and with a lot of cards. I agree with the argument of people just want to play their cards. They want to play their Magic cards, and Commander is one of the only formats where they can play them. I just had a guy again comment on the video today. He just recently purchased the Tellurian Academy, and he wishes it was unbanned in Commander so he could actually use it. He has a Magic card that he actually wants to play, and I agree. Go nuts, buddy. Play your Tellurian Academy. You want to actually use your cards in a Magic game, and this is the format that I think is great for that. But the fact that they banned the entire Power 9 and not except for this, it's kind of suspicious, I just got to say. All right, again, another one that's maybe a little bit personal for me, Blightsteel Colossus. But again, for me, the thinking is I'm just surprised they didn't ban this right out of the gate. And the reason for me with Blightsteel Colossus is it is a one-hit kill. This is the only card that I can think of that is just, I hit one opponent and they're dead, because of course it gives 10 infect. Very easy, and of course people do it all the time. Now it costs 12 mana, but guess what? You can cheat it into play. You can blah, right? Again, we go into that argument. And again, this is another card that if it was banned in Commander, nobody would complain. Everyone would be like, oh, of course it's banned. Just one hit kill, right? And if I called for it to get unbanned, people would say I was crazy. Again, just think about these cards, all the cards on this list, all right? And it's the popular theme here with this list is if these cards were banned already and I called for them to get unbanned, people would call me a lunatic. And that is the case with Blightsteel Colossus, I promise you. Even though it costs 12 mana, it's very easy to cheat into play. If I said, Blightsteel Colossus, not that bad, we should unban it, everyone would be like, you're a lunatic, it's a one-hit kill. Are you crazy? Like, why would you want that unbanned, right? I think that I would be totally okay with banning. Again, I'm okay with it unbanning. In my opinion, not super fun. Again, getting into the whole fun thing. How fun is it for someone to cheat out their Blightsteel Colossus and just give you 10 infect out of the blue and you're dead and you're out of the game? Ooh, wow, that's fun, right? So again, all the arguments I hear about creating a fun environment, I'm just like, what are you guys talking about? Like, again, Winter Orbs, all the stacks pieces, Turgid, and then, Augustine, and all these commanders that are actually in the command zone that are super unfun. So don't give me the unfun argument. That's not a good argument. I'm surprised they didn't ban it immediately because of what it does, but also certainly a card that if it was banned and I called for it to unban, people would say I was a lunatic. Kiki-Jiki Mirror Breaker, as I've mentioned so many times before, this is, I think, I don't know, maybe you guys could argue, but is there a card that goes infinite with more cards than Kiki-Jiki? I mean, I can think of at least 10 or 12 off the top of my head. So I threw this on the list. Again, I've brought this up before. I threw this on the list for 2 reasons. One, any argument you make for you can't unban this card because it combos with X. Kiki-Jiki combos with 1,000 X's, right? And again, this is a card that gets played in Casual Commander. This one really is one of the most baffling cards for me that I can't believe nobody calls for it to get banned. This card gets played in CEDH very regularly as a win con. So a card that gets played in CEDH as a win con, people play it in Casual Commander and don't have a problem with it. Again, this one is one of the most baffling cards ever, where no one calls for it to get banned. No one complains about it in a casual commander game. I mean, it certainly makes you a target. And as soon as you play one, like I used to play one in my old Dragon Lord Atarka deck. And as soon as I played it, I had no infinite combos. But as soon as I played it, everyone's like, oh, watch out for it, right? It certainly is a card to watch out for, but so are a lot of cards, right? It baffles me. It's so easy to just go infinite with this guy and no one ever calls for it to get banned. So for me, the argument of we can't unban this card because with this other card, we create this crazy scenario. Okay, why not this then? All right, number 2, Thassa's Oracle. And this is actually a card that I would say I would like to see banned. And it's not because I personally hate it. Again, I'm trying to be objective here. A lot of people just personally hate cards, so they want them banned, or they personally, oh, I used to play against Primeval Titan, so now I want it banned because I just enjoy playing Commander more because it doesn't exist, right? Let's try not to make this personal, okay? Objectively, I think that the Commander format is better if this card is banned, and this is a case where, I mean, funny enough, you could split the formats into CEDH and Casual Commander, and this would be banned in CEDH. I think CEDH is a better format without this card, in my opinion. I'm not an expert, but I think that the people would have to come up with more interesting ways to win games, right? Rather than just, Thassa's Oracle, okay, my next game, right? No, I think so. And then you could allow this in Casual Commander, right? I know that seems backwards, but I think that's the better way to go, because in Casual Commander, people would just be playing this. I had a guy, a patron in a game recently play this guy, right? Thassa's Oracle, and it was like, oh my God. But he just played it because it actually does do something, right? It scries or whatever. It actually does do something other than just win the game. And that's the only way he used it. And funny enough, when this card first came out, I was like, oh, this was my reaction when I first saw this card. I saw this and I was like, oh, that's a good fit in my Tashana deck because it's a blinking card. Right? When it enters the battlefield, look at the top X cards of your library, where X is your devotion to blue. Put one of those on the top of your library and the rest on the bottom of your library. Pretty good card in my Tashana deck, because I can blink it over and over and stack the top of my library or whatever. And there probably is a lot of decks that want to stack the top of their library that would probably like to use this card. Then they had that win the game part on it, and it very quickly became the #1 win con in CEDH. And of course, then you couldn't really play it in Casual Commander anymore. Just kind of funny how things work out sometimes. I also really like the art. It's a cool looking card as well. That being said, this is, to me, the easiest card to ban, even if we don't have separate ban lists. I think, again, for me, CEDH just gets better and more interesting if you ban the #1 win con in the format. Again, they banned Flash for that reason. Flash is on the ban list simply because everyone was using it as their win con in CEDH, and the format was getting stale. So they're like, hey, let's ban this so that people will do other things. Now everyone's just doing Thassa's Oracle, so same thing applies. So it'll just make the format more interesting, I think. And in Casual Commander, who's going to miss it? Nobody's going to miss it in Casual Commander, right? So this is the one card on this list that, for me, I actually think the Commander format in general is better off if it gets banned. It doesn't need to. I'm fine with it. I never see it, so why would I care, right? Again, a lot of these cards, people are like, they have no argument, like Mishra's Workshop or Tabernacle, or they're like, I don't care. I never see that card, so why would I care, right? That's a lot of arguments people will make. I never see this card, but being objective, I think the Commander format is better off if we ban this card. All right, coming in #1, yes, is Sol Ring. And I guess Mana Crypt you could throw in here, any of that stuff. I will use Sol Ring as the best example. And for me, again, this was a case of, this wasn't banned immediately. And I will point out, this was not always a $2 card, okay? It was obviously has been reprinted into oblivion. That's why it's only a $2 card. I talk about all the time. And a lot of people will say, oh, well, Mana Crypt needs to be banned. A lot of people would love to see Mana Crypt banned. Why not Sol Ring? They're basically the same card. And the only reason, again, is because, oh, it's expensive and I don't have one. Maybe the most selfish argument ever that absolutely drives me crazy is, I want that card banned because other people have it and I don't. I can't afford to go buy a Mana Crypt, so we have to ban it so nobody else can play it. What? Come on, guys. Like, Sol Ring and Mana Crypt are the exact same card, essentially. Sol Ring costs 1 mana, but it has 0 downside, so in my opinion, it's better in a casual game. Why don't you want Sol Ring ban if you want Mana Crypt ban? That's all I'm saying. Oh, you can do more busted things on turn 1 with a Mana Crypt. Okay, now you're playing CEDH. Again, we get back into that argument. Are you playing Casual Commander or not? For me, this is the card that is probably the easiest to ban. It's absurdly busted. It hits all those arguments, I guess, except for the expensive one, because, again, now it's not expensive because everyone's got one. That's the only thing. The only reason why everyone is okay with this card is because everyone's got one, or like 7 copies sitting in my box like I have, right? it hits on all the other things, right? It enables insane first turn plays. It goes in literally every commander deck. Obviously, it's the most popular card in the entire format. It's hitting on all those arguments. All those arguments you guys have for banning cards, this is hitting on those arguments. People have become numb to how insanely powerful this card is. You know, that's why people are okay with it. As I brought up in the last time I talked about cards I would ban, I said if they printed a 2-mana Soul Ring that taps to add for 2, everyone plays it. So you've just made a Soul Ring that is twice as bad or half as good. It goes in every single commander deck. Every single one. If you made a Soul Ring that costs 2 mana, taps for 2, and enters the battlefield tapped, everyone puts it in their deck. Every single deck gets that card. And I've just made it way worse. That gives you an idea of how absurd this card is. It's absurd. And again, I've been playing Magic for a long, long time. And I remember how absurd Soul Ring was just considered. Like, what were they thinking printing this card? 1 mana comes into play, not tapped. You can use it for 2 mana right away. That's insane. 0 downside. Again, Grim Monolith, Mana Vault, all these, they all have downsides. Soul Ring has no downside. None. Just sits there tapping for 2 mana every single turn. And I was out of Magic for a while. I got back in, I was playing Modern, and then I started playing Commander. Again, this was one where I was like, what? Like, I remember Soul Ring being just historically this absurdly, like, what were they thinking? Like, again, the same conversations as Black Lotus. Like, what were they thinking printing this card like this? I mean, obviously they didn't know. It was early in the history of Magic. And I could not believe that it was not banned in the Commander format. I couldn't believe it. I was like, what? Why would you not? Again, you could make the argument for Mana Crypt, some of these other ones. This card is insane. Now, again, people will make the argument, okay, well, you just said that, you know, Commander is the format where we get to play. Okay, so unban Black Lotus, unban the Moxes. To me, it's all the same. And again, I'm calling all you people out because all you people who are just like, it goes in every deck. You mean like Soul Ring? It's absurdly powerful. You mean like Soul Ring? First turn, like whatever argument you want to make applies to Soul Ring, except the expensive argument. That's the only argument that doesn't apply here. Applies to a lot of other cards on this list. I don't have any of them, guys. I'm being objective here. I don't have any of those cards. I don't have a Timetwister. I don't have, none of these cards do I have. Okay, so I'm not doing this for myself. I'm doing it because it's hypocrisy. There is no consistency here. Why is Soul Ring unbanned, but the Moxes aren't? I don't get it. To me, it's all the same. A first turn Soul Ring, just as good as a first turn Mox Emerald, in my opinion. Mox Emerald is free, but you got 2 mana on turn 1. Soul Ring got 2 mana on turn 1. And for the rest of the game. What's the difference? There's no difference to me, right? And people, again, you're all going to paint some scenario of Mox Emerald gives you green mana, so that enables you to do this thing, and to go down the rabbit hole of the perfect opening hand and this. I don't care about all that. Again, we're already in a format where you can first turn Thassa's Oracle, Demonic Consultation, and win if you have an opening God hand. That's already a possibility. Remember the format that you are playing, okay? And again, I'm not calling for Soul Ring to get banned. I'm not. Okay, all I'm saying is I'm shocked it's not. Most of the cards on this list, again, play into, you know, whatever argument you got. It's expensive, it's not accessible, it combos, whatever the argument you got, that applies to the cards on this list, right? Also, a lot of these cards, like Soul Ring, again, Soul Ring to me fits in a bunch of arguments. All those arguments this fits into, and also it fits into the category of, I was shocked when I first started playing Commander and this card wasn't banned. I couldn't believe it. Like, wow, really? That card's absurd. Anyway, that is it. That is my video on 10 cards to possibly ban in the Commander format. But of course, as you can tell by the discussion, mostly I'm okay with cards being unbanned. At the end of the day, are you playing casual Commander or not, right? I want to unban Primeval Titan or Gifts Ungiven. Is the thing you're doing a casual play? Again, think of the format we're in, guys. Primeval Titan, I go get my Cabal Coffers and my Urborg, and then what? Then I blink it the next turn probably, and then go get 2. Okay. Wow. Is the game over? The game's not even over yet. Your Primeval Titan's getting you a bunch of lands. Okay, but I can very easily create infinite mana in the Commander format. I can very easily just Sanguine Bond, Exquisite Blood, I win the game. Right? So just remember the format you're playing. The argument of this card goes in every deck is a terrible argument because Soul Ring already goes in every deck. Arcane State, again, all of those cards. This card's expensive is a terrible argument. Those are all terrible arguments, in my opinion. In my opinion, it's too expensive. It's not accessible. It combos with X. It goes in every deck. Those are all terrible arguments because they already apply to so many cards in the Commander format. And the argument of it creates an unfun environment. What about Winter Orb, Every stacks piece, Armageddon, go down the list, right? What about those cards as well? We'd have to ban every land destruction spell, every stacks piece. Are those fun, right? They unbanned Worldfire like a year ago. Is that fun? I mean, come on. So I don't think that's a great argument either. That's my opinion on it. Again, for me, I'm more on the side of unbanning. I just unban all these cards, and if my opponent played you know what? I was just going to say if my opponent played a Tabernacle on turn one. They can already do that. It's not banned. If my opponent played a Tabernacle on turn one, I'd be like, are we playing casual commander here? This doesn't seem like it, right? If we unbanned all cards and my opponent played a Library of Alexandria on turn one, I'd be like, okay, right? Again, it's so funny to me that people lose their mind over cards like Library of Alexandria when you can very easily play a Mishra's Workshop or Tabernacle on turn one as well. So I don't know. Consistency, I think it's definitely lacking in the banned list. You guys let me have it in the comments below. I know you're going to. This is likely the last video I'll ever do about banning, because man, do people ever lose their minds whenever you talk about banning or unbanning cards. Certainly. Oh, it's going to warp the format. Nothing will warp the format, guys. I promise you. We're at a point now where it does not matter. Nothing you do will warp the format. There's already format warping cards available in the Commander format, and people just don't play them in casual games. And you probably don't even realize it. That's all. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I'm out of here.